Hi, my name is Anton O'Connell, and me and Colin Roach made this web application as our final year project for GMIT. I'm going to give a breakdown of all the features on the application, as well as the database, the hosting from the cloud, and the code, and break down how these work and everything else. Okay, let's start now. When a user goes to this website for the first time, the first thing they'll be meeting with is the sign-in page. Now, as a new user, this isn't available to us. So, best thing to do is to go to the sign-up page by either clicking it on the nav bar, or not register yet, clicking it here. Brings us to the registration page. The home page will always bring us back to the sign-in, because we're a new user. We have no information that can be displayed. We only have the privileges to read. And we do this by setting the rules in Firebase. As you see, allow write if authenticated. Now, otherwise you can read and delete, but only when the document matches you. And that's universal across the application. Now, when we sign up, these are some test emails we've used before. You can save your information. Now, with the email, it has to be a valid email. And by valid, it must have an @ and a domain. So, password. Password requires at least 6 characters, and then a username. Email must be unique. It uses Firebase authentication to validate that. The way it does that is there's authentication built into Firebase. As you can see, these are all the users where it generates a unique user ID. And this is the only way you can always reference the user without it mixing up with any others. Now, in the database, we have a table called users. And in this is where the users will be added, including their characters, their friends list, and then all the other tables store the messaging, the forms, and the group messaging, which is yet to be implemented. Now, sign up this user. Save. And as you can see, the page has changed and no longer prompts you to sign in or sign up. Now, if you go to the database, you can see there is a new user here. And there we are. Now, go to my profile, you can see the details here. Now, we don't have any characters yet, so let's create that. Make it level 5. There we go. Our first character. We can edit this information. Now, we navigate to our user, give it a second update, and here we are. Characters loaded, all the information here, including the change and level. Now, the application connects to the server by this object here that stores all the information needed to get to Firebase. And this is generated when we create the database, including the API key, authentication domain, database URL, project ID, storage bucket, etc. Now, in this we have a services, and this one is called Fire Authentication Service, where it stores everything needed to create a user. Now, to create a user, use this register method, where it creates a promise, and the Firebase Authentication has a pre-built-in method called create user with email and password, where we pass in the 2 variables, and then the user data updates the profile. At the same time, we set the user data.user here. Now, what that does is it sets it to the constant variable we've created. And then afterwards, we later save that data as a local storage user so we can reference it more easily throughout the project. Our character is created by creating a record and storing the information the user has inputted into it. It then references the service, which in this application is called CRUD service, and calls the method create new character. passes through and then redirects. Now, what is create character? New character is a simple method that returns this, that Angular Firestore, that collection, navigate to the user, navigate to the specific document by the ID, go to the collection characters and adds the record as a document. Now, let's navigate to the forms. Okay, so these are some sample forms we make. So if you click on them, you can see the post title, who the post is by, and the content of the post. This is just filled with some basic sample data that shows the time to create, and you can reply. Now, you don't have this permission unless you have written the post. Now, in the reply, we can say something simple. And that is instantly added. Now, it adds it to the server in its own very specific table in forms. Now, the form title is just generated by creating the user's unique ID with the title as a subdivision. Now, this is the form we were just looking at. These are the comments. Each individual comment is added as a document, as well as the relevant information. Now, let's create our own sample form. So, for example, title. Here we have it. Somewhere in the forms we should see. There we go. All the information. As you see, there is no collection of comments yet, but as soon as we navigate to the post, see, give it a moment to refresh. There, the comments are added. Now, I'm going to break down the other features as well, and then I'll go through the rest of the code and explain how they work. With the messaging component, first the user must add a friend. To do this, you must input the user's unique ID, which they have the choice of sharing. You can find this on the profile. Now, since we haven't spoken to anyone, we've made them friends, we're going to send a message to one of the users already in the database, log into that user, and then see the information. So, I'm going to do that, and we'll cut ahead. Send the message. And we've logged into Tim's messaging. So he's more popular. Now, this is the message we just sent, so clicking on the title, we can see the full conversation and reply to it as such. Now, that is our basic messaging. Same applies to the forms, you can see it's all still there. Go to my profile. As well, we have a cloud server deployed. Now, there was an update recently and we're having some trouble, but this is the server, and this is where we intend to host the application. Now, it's down currently due to an update and some bug coming up with Node, but it should be back up and running very shortly. We used Angular routing to create this, which allows for quick navigation between the pages. The styling is not fully complete and will be done before the deadline, as well as some general improvements to the code, so it may look different by the time this video is complete. Thanks for listening. Have a pleasant evening.